Hi everyone. Today's unit that we'll be doing is legal research methods, and the unit code is L6187921. My name is Shazia Khan. So the last learning outcomes that we did were learning outcome 2 and 3 together, and then looking today at learning outcome 4. So I'll just give you a brief outline of what we did in learning outcome 2 and 3, so you've got a better idea, just a summary. So in learning outcome 2, we looked at being able to develop legal research approaches. And here we looked at how the learner will be able to develop key knowledge and understanding and skills relating to key research and methodological problems, also covering topics such as research problem, conducting literature reviews, referencing data, and analyzing data techniques. The whole reason behind that is because you would have to produce a literature review, which we'll be going through in regards to this. So you'd look at understanding the SMART objectives, the rationale for this selection. We looked at milestones, project goals, schedules. We went on to look at research methods, so how there's different types of research methods to conduct a research project, things like qualitative research, mixed method, quantitative research, sampling, data collection. We looked at the importance of legal research in regards to the legal profession and why it's so important to develop these research skills. We also looked at approaches that could be used in understanding legal research, such as having a structured framework for selecting a research topic. So it's really important that you are able to identify and select a research topic that is quite relevant, but also quite significant with any sort of landscape that's going on now. And also if there's any sort of new any sort of sources that you could use, any sort of importance that you want to look at. So it's really important, and you must have a passion for this area because you are wanting to do legal research around it. We looked at the, in learning outcome 2, we also looked at the importance of legal research, how it kind of expands our understanding and knowledge. Things like, addressing any sort of challenges that may be occurring from this legal research, looking at professional practice, any sort of policy developments or any sort of new changes that can contribute to this area that you're doing. Also, we looked at informing decision makers, so how it's essential to have informed decisions. And we looked at the understanding legal principles, doctrines and precedents, and the importance of understanding these. We looked at an overview of what a research project looks like and how it should be structured, what methodology would you be using, what resources, what approach you'd be using to gathering all sorts of, all the evidence, all the research, any sort of statutes you'll be using, legal cases, any sort of academic resources, scholarly commentary, and how you would be, conducting this research is really important. We also looked at how it could be quite rigorous in kind of meeting the the goal of your legal research, the ultimate goal, because it's quite difficult sometimes if legislation is not there for you to look at. So you need to be quite careful when you pick in an area as well, so that there's enough resources out there for you to complete this research project. Also looking at any sort of developments within the area, particularly analysis, research methodologies, research projects. When it comes to choosing a relevant legal area, we've looked at research areas, it's there are a lot of factors that you need to consider, things like, legal, the relevance of it, if there's any societal importance, and potential contribution to existing knowledge. So, society plays a big part if there's any sort of importance of picking this area, any sort of human rights ideas or any sort of equality, environmental, legal challenges that you'll have. We looked at also in Learning Outcome 2 how to create research aims and objectives. And we looked at the SMART criteria, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and how that relates to producing and creating your aims and objectives for your research project. We then went on to look at aims and objectives in more detail, things like terms of reference, the rationale for selecting this research topic, the key milestones for, the progress that you're going to have, how you're going to monitor it, how you're going to have timelines in place, and what your project goal is, what is your overreaching aim and objective of the research and what you intend to do, and schedule, creating a timeline is really important for any sort of academic piece of work or any sort of research, because you need to be able to allocate yourself that time. You need to plan things, a detailed plan is really important for any research project, because it literally outlines what you're going to be, the approach you'll be using, but also what methods you'll be using, your research question, your hypothesis, how you're going to collect data, detailing any sort of analysis, and also, your strategies that you'll be using to research all this. A detailed plan is a key component to any sort of research, because it navigates the process, the whole research process, but also gives you an idea of what you are going to do in the future, and also will, make you develop your skills. So having, a research plan and your goals and things is really important part of, a research project, and having clear aims and objectives, but also, selecting a research topic that you think you can get information on, and you think that you could be able to complete this by, a timeline. So setting these key milestones and setting, why you've chose the area, setting timelines is really, really important in any sort of research project. Then we looked at Learning Outcome 3 in regards to the legal research methods. We looked at being able to critically review literature relevant to a legal topic. We looked at things like the theoretical approaches we'll be using, because here you will be producing literature review, and you will have an organized, systematic way of doing that. So you'll be looking at different sections of a literature review, and then you're going to be looking at the evaluation and identifying any sort of gaps. So some examples of research areas that you might want to consider, I mean, these are just random stuff: cybercrime, things like international trade law, climate change and international trade law, or the impact maybe on World Trade Organization or GATT. So you will look at the different theoretical approaches to legal research problems, so the different types of theoretical approaches that are out there, how you intend to use the methods by examining your specific area, ethical aspects as well. Are the sources that you're using, are they distinguishable? Can you use them? And are they supporting your hypothesis? And the approaches that you are using, what kind of theories would they cause a problem? These kind of things you looked at. Evaluation of arguments. A hypothesis will always have an argument in there. And here you will be looking at doing a literature review as well, so it'll identify certain elements of that. Creating a structured and thorough critical review, literature review. So, it needs to have a critical literature review. It needs to be looking at critical literature assessments and where the gaps are, and where it needs to establish the research, the flaws if there's any flaws there. That's the whole point of doing the literature review. And you also need to identify writing a literature review. So you could, you know, it must provide, it's like sources on a specific area. So if you choose a research area, for example, on cybercrime, you need to identify all the scholarly sources that you're using. So literally, a literature review provides current knowledge, allowing you to identify relevant theories, methods, gaps in existing research that can be applied to your project. 5 key steps to look at for literature review: to search for relevant literature, to evaluate sources, to identify themes, debates, and gaps, to outline the structure, and then to write your literature review. And when you're writing a literature review, a good literature review does not just summarize sources. It analyzes them, synthesizes them, and critically evaluates to give a clear picture of the subject area. We also looked at some examples with links for you to go on in regards to literature reviews, examples of different ones in different areas. And there are links on Learning Outcome 3, sorry, that you could go on to on page 11 to look at some examples or, you know, different areas. We looked at why do people migrate. We looked at literature review as a research methodology. We looked at the use of technology and English language. So there's some examples you could look at. We also looked at the importance of literature review in responding to an area that you've chosen. So if you want to research that area, why it's so important to have a literature review. And it's literally there to prove any sort of data that you've got, but also your sources, you know, to be able to identify your sources. It's literally there to fill in the holes. With like newer areas, and you know, you need to be making sure that you are writing a good literature review that identifies, analyzes, and supports the area that you want to do your literature review on. Excuse me. And you know, that you get to your final results, because it's so important that when you do the literature review, you're able to identify that there are some societal issues or some issues within the law that you can implement. So that was Learning Outcome 3. Now the learning outcome that we're doing today is Learning Outcome 4. And that's looking at legal research methods. And Learning Outcome 4, which we're looking at now, is to be able to design legal research methodologies. So the indicative content, so research methods could be things like surveys, questionnaires, observation, and it's literally a way to test sufficiency, reliability, and validity, and that's really important aspect of any sort of research. You know, to make sure it's reliable, it's valid, and you know, it's not something that's been added onto. And you know, the source that you get is reliable, and we'll look a little bit more in regards to reliability of sources throughout Learning Outcome 4. Definitions of data, primary, secondary sources, qualitative and quantitative, whether it's credible or not, the size and sufficiency of data, reliability and validity information. We're also going to, and what I wanted to do is firstly identify under the Oxford English Dictionary what research is regarded as. And in the dictionary it said it's a systematic investigation or inquiry aimed at contributing to knowledge of a theory, topic, etc., and by careful consideration, observation, or study of a subject. So it literally refers to an area you pick, and you have to identify and contribute to the knowledge that you want to gain from that subject area. Legal research skills refer to any skill you research legal matters, like definitions, like any sort of case studies and regulations. Many helpful tools can assist in legal research, but it's necessary to have certain skills to analyze material effectively. And it's so important, if you look in the legal profession, why it's so important to have research skills, why it's so important to, you know, be able to research any sort of legal any sort of legal cases or regulations, things like that. So it's really important. Research methodology simply refers to practical how of a research study. More specifically, it's about how the researcher systematically designs a study to ensure valid and reliable results that address the aims, objectives, and research questions. specifically how researchers went about deciding, so what type of research to collect, which we'll go through a little bit throughout learning outcome 4 and 5 in more detail. So qualitative or quantitative data, who to collect it from. So the sampling strategy, is it the audience? What kind of audience they need to refer to? Is it an organization? How big the audience is? So, you know, where to collect the information from, how to collect it, so the data method, and how to analyze it, and the analysis methods, what methods you will be using. So still going on to key terminology, what is each one? Quantitative data is the value of data in the form of counts or numbers, which each data set has a unique numerical value. We'll go through this in more detail throughout the presentation. And then qualitative data refers to research which focuses on collecting and analysing. It could either be written or spoken and textual or visual, whereas quantitative research focuses on the measurement and testing using numerical data. So we'll go on to 4.1, which is to critically evaluate the relevant research methodologies that can be applied to your chosen research topic. So here you've chosen your topic area. You need to be able to look at evaluating the importance of applying this to your the relevant research and methodologies to your area. So research methodologies. Conducting research is often the stepping stone when you are writing dissertation. And that's not just for the dissertation. If you're doing an assignment, on the main thing is getting the research together. And this is a big project, so you need to be able to get the research together. Choosing the correct research methodology can determine the success and overall quality of your report. It is hence essential to get the initial stage of your research right. In this, we will discuss the research methodologies in detail and help you identify your method you choose for your study. So it's really important. What is research methodology? A research methodology describes the techniques and procedures used to identify and analyze information and regarding a specific topic area, as we mentioned. It is a process by which researchers design their studies so this can achieve their objectives using the selected research instruments. So it includes all important aspects of research, including data design, data collection, data analysis. So it's literally the framework of everything. So you need to be able to look at that in more detail and analyze the methods and what is conducted. When we look at research methodology, it's really important. The research methodology is like a structured and scientific approach used, as we mentioned, to collect the data. It's a plan. It's a plan for carrying out any sort of research for you and helps the researcher on track by limiting the scope of the research. Now, when you're doing research, sometimes you can go over and abroad, and try want to research everything, but it's really important that you stick to your area. Your area of research is really important because you can't be moving away from that, because then you're drifting away from it and you're not looking at the area you need to be looking at. So when we look at why research methodology is important for a researcher, it literally helps other researchers who may want to replicate your research. So if you do the research, some of the advantages that it can answer your questions to the research as well. It provides a framework, as we said, and it's a plan for guidelines for researchers. It helps you identify your research, but also design sample techniques, and it ensures that your findings are valid. And we're going to be looking at this a little bit more, where it helps in regards to guidelines, ethical guidelines, why it's so important, why there's a need for it, the importance of having research methodology. Also, research methodology is also there to determine the methods and tools, as we mentioned, to be used to analyze the data. So if you collect loads of data, you need to make sure your data is sufficient, reliable, and valid, because you need to be making sure that when it comes to your final conclusion, it's logical and consistent, and that would be based on the data that you collect. Because it's really important that you look at collecting the data that makes sense and the data that is valid and reliable. So you need to make sure that when you're doing that, that they are different. There are different academic research methods that can be used, which we'll be going through a little bit in Learning Outcome 4. Things like qualitative, quantitative. There's empirical research based on observations, interviews, historical research. These are different types of researches that can be used, which looks at documents from the past. Documentary research, which looks at databases, research in the libraries, archives. Experimental research, experiments and tests. Conceptual research, which we looked at in Learning Outcome 1, which looks at theories to understand phenomena. Comparative research, different elements, which we looked at in Learning Outcome 1 and 2, and an analytical research based on analysis of data. So it's really important that you identify what data, what analysis, methodology you're using for your research project. Now looking at ways to test sufficiency, reliability and validity of research. And that's really important, because when we look at reliability and data, sufficiency of any data, it's really important that we identify that, it's valid. Okay, so reliability and validity are concepts used to evaluate the quality of research. They indicate how a well-method technique or test measures something. Reliability is about the consistency of measure, and validity is about the accuracy of the measure out. It's important to consider reliability and validity when you are creating your research design, planning, and your methods. So it's important to identify that and writing up results, especially in quantitative research. Failing to do so can lead to several types of research bias and seriously affect your work. So you need to make sure what you are doing, you're able to understand what you are doing, but able to identify these issues. Reliability and validity actually work closely together, but they are different things. A measurement can be reliable without being valid. So it's really important to identify that. However, if a measurement is valid, it usually also is reliable. Reliability refers to how consistently a method measures something, if the same result can be consistently achieved by using the same methods under the same circumstances. So the measurement is considered reliable. An example of that, if a doctor uses a symptom questionnaire to diagnose a patient with a long-term medical condition, several different doctors use the same questionnaire with the same patient but give different diagnoses. This indicates that the questionnaire has low reliability as a measure of the condition. So it's really important that you're able to identify these. Validity refers to things like how accurately a method measures that what is intended to measure. If the research has high validity, that means it produces results that correspond to real properties, characteristics, and variations in physical or social world. High reliability is one indicator that a measurement is valid. If a method is not reliable, it probably isn't valid. And an example of that is if you think about if the thermometer shows different temperatures each time, even though you have carefully controlled conditions to ensure the sample's temperature stays the same, the thermometer is probably malfunctioning and therefore its measurements are not valid. If a symptom questionnaire results in a reliable diagnosis when answered at different times and with different doctors, this indicates it has high validity as a measurement of the medical condition. However, reliability on its own is not enough to ensure validity. Even if a test is reliable, it may not accurately reflect the real situation. So it's really important. Sometimes, validity is sometimes harder to assess than reliability, but it's even more important, so it's really important to identify that, but it's, there are areas that you need to look at when looking at reliability and validity. And in the literature review, this is an example of reliability and validity in a thesis. So it's your literature review. So your section would be your literature review. What you would discuss what have other researchers done to devise and improve methods that are reliable and valid. And the methodology to use is that how did you plan your research to ensure reliability and validity of the measures used. And this includes the chosen sample set and the size, sample preparation, external conditions, and measuring techniques, as we use the example of the thermometer and the doctor. Results, so if you calculate reliability and validity, state these values alongside the main results. And then discussion, so this is a moment to talk about how reliable and valid your results are. Where they're consistent, what do they reflect the true values? If not, why not? So you need to look at that you need to make sure whether they are valid and they are reliable. And then the conclusion. So if the reliability and validity were a big problem for your findings, it may be helpful to mention this in here, to identify why they were a big problem. And, you need to be able to plan and, take into account planning your research and interpreting the results. So this is an example of reliability and validity in a thesis. Now we're going to go on to looking at 4.2, which is looking at justifying the methodology selected in terms of the research. So research methodology. Some common types of research methodology includes quantitative research, qualitative research and methodology, mixed method research, experimental research, and case study research. Definitions of data, primary and secondary research. So the essential difference between primary and secondary research lies in who collects the data. So primary research, when conducting primary research, you're collecting data by doing your own surveys or observation. Secondary research is, in secondary, you're looking at existing data from academic sources, journals, national statistics, and identifying that in regards to any sort of data that is needed. So let's move on to, so each research method, both secondary and primary, can be used alone to give good effect. But when you combine the two methods, you have ingredients for a highly effective market research strategy. So most research combines some element of both primary and secondary research consultation. So secondary research can prepare you for collecting your own data. In primary research project, it can give you a broad overview of your research area, identify influences, trends, and may give you that ideas and avenues to explore that you've not considered previously. Given that secondary research can be done quickly and inexpensively, it makes sense to start your primary research process with some kind of secondary research. Even if you're expecting to find out what you need to know from the survey of your target market, taking a small amount of time to gather information from secondary sources is worth doing. So primary research data collection can be carefully carried out in-house by business analysts or, the research team within a company. And it gives you recent data from primary sources about particular topic areas, whatever research area you intend to choose. It can involve two forms of data collection, so exploratory research and conclusive research. So some examples of primary research could be things like customer satisfaction surveys, results, employee experience pulse survey results, NPS rating scores from your customers, maybe some field researchers' notes, data from weather stations, recordings made by focus groups. So these are some examples of primary research. It could be, you could be doing surveys, things which we're going to look at in regards to that a little bit later. Secondary research is generally the best place to start any research project. So when you're doing your research project, it's the best way to do it because it will reveal whether someone has already researched the same topic you're interested. So it gives you an idea when you're looking at your research project for this area of looking at the groundwork for it. So if you go out there and research if someone's done it, then it's easier for you to start looking at it and just gives you an idea and is a stronger basis for it so that you can strengthen your research hypothesis and look at any sort of gaps. The scope of secondary research is extremely broad. So, you might be able to look at things like books, magazines, market research reports, scholarly journals, legal journals, government reports, white papers. These are things that may be available to you. So newspapers, blogs, any sort of research from forums, debates, company, literature review is a big part of secondary research as well, which we're going to be looking at next. A core part of secondary research process involving data collection and constructing an argument around multiple sources. A literature review, which you're going to be doing in regards to your research project, involves gathering information from a wide range of secondary sources on one topic and summarizing them in a report in the introduction to primary research. So, it's really important you use this when you are doing a literature review. And this approach is widely used in social sciences codes. So, you can look at analyzing your data. You can look at whether, what kind of data you're going to use, what sources you're going to use, how you're going to research it. So it's really important for literature reviews to get together all the, elements that you need to do to be able to conduct your research. Now we're going to go on to 4.3, and that looks at proposing suitable techniques to use with quantitative and qualitative data collection and analysis. And we looked at what they were briefly in the key indicators at the start. So what is qualitative data and quantitative data? And just to identify what each one is and why there's a need for each one. So you've got quantitative research, which collects numerical data and analyzes it using statistic methods, which I mentioned earlier. The aim is to produce objective empirical data that can be measured and expressed in numerical terms. Quantitative research is often used to test hypotheses, identify patterns, and make predictions. On the other hand, qualitative research collects non-numerical data such as words, images, and sounds, and the focus is on exploring subjective opinions and attitudes, often through observation and interviews. So this diagram here looks at quantitative and qualitative data collection. So when we're looking at the focus in regards to qualitative research, the whole focus of it is to exploring new ideas or formulating hypothesis theory. For quantitative research, it's for testing hypotheses or theories. The analysis for qualitative data research is summarizing, categorizing, interpreting. And for quantitative data, it's math and statistical analysis, and it's expressed in qualitative data in words. For quantitative data, it's expressed in numbers, graphs, tables, and fewer words rather than more words in quantitative data, qualitative data. The sample is in qualitative research is few respondents, and in quantitative research it's many respondents. For questions in regards to qualitative research is open-ended, and for quantitative research is close-ended or multiple choice, and it's categorized by understanding context, complexity, and subjectivity, whereas in quantitative research it's testing, measurement, and objectivity, replicability as well. Qualitative and quantitative data collection and analysis. So quantitative data collection analysis. Quantitative and qualitative data can be collected using various methods. It is important to use a data collection method that will help answer your research questions. Many data collection methods can be either qualitative or quantitative. For example, in surveys, observational studies, or case studies, your data will be represented as numbers, for example, using rating scales or counting frequencies, or as words, example, with open-ended questions or descriptions of what observed. What data analysis methods there are. So data analysis methods refer to the methods and the techniques that you'll use to make sense of your data. These can be grouped according to whether the research is qualitative, which is word-based, as we mentioned, and quantitative, which is number-based. Popular data analysis methods is qualitative research, which is qualitative research content analysis, thematical analysis, discourse analysis, narrative analysis, imperative phenomenological analysis, IPA, and visual analysis, which is photographs, videos, and art. Qualitative data analysis all begins with data coding, after which an analysis method is applied. In some cases, more than one analysis method is used depending on the research aims and research questions, and in regards to your own research area. There's a video here that I've got, which you can look at in your own time, and this video looks at common qualitative analysis methods along with practical examples. So it gives you an idea of what you need to look at, and also gives you an idea of what data analysis is in regards to qualitative data. Moving on to quantitative side of things, popular data analysis in this type of research includes descriptive statistics, for example, means, medians, modes, and inferential statistics, which is correlation, regression, structured equation, and modeling. Again, the choice of which data method to use depends on your overall research aims and objectives, as well as practicalities and resource constraints. And it's all about resource. If you're able to get the resource, you know, it's important that you've got able to do the data collection. So qualitative data collection methods. So you've got things like, some examples are interviews, which are asking open-ended questions verbally to respondents. And this is a verbatim record of participants during the interview. It allows the researcher to identify common themes and patterns and draw conclusions based on the data. Interview transcripts can also be useful in providing direct quotes. Another one is focus groups, and that's quite a popular one, where discussion among a group of people about a topic area to gather opinions that can be used for further research. Then you've got ethnography, which is participating in a community or organization for an extended period to closely observe culture and behavior. And then you've got literature review, which is a survey of published works by authors. So that's some examples of qualitative data. You can also have other things like observations, where the researcher typically takes detailed notes on literally what they observe, including contextual information, non-verbal cues, or relevant things in regards to that. Another qualitative data could be diaries or journals, written accounts of personal experiences or for reflections. So they're types of qualitative data that can be used to, identify, an area that needs to be looked at in regards to key features of, qualitative researchers want those who are studied to speak for themselves. So qualitative researcher is an integral part of any sort of data, to collect the data, to get all the data together so that they can analyze the data. It allows for any sort of ambiguities, contradictions, and it reflects on the societal norms as well. We've got quantitative data collection methods. However, some methods are commonly used in one type or the other. Surveys, a list of closed or multiple choice questions that is distributed to a sample. So it can be online, in person, or over the phone. Experiments, so a situation in which different types of variables are controlled and manipulated to establish cause and effect relationships. Observations, so observing subjects in a natural environment where variables can be controlled. So this is qualitative data analysis, and why there's a use. Sorry, this is quantitative data research. So it could be things, some more psychological research. quantitative data. It could be things like clinical outcome measures. It could be things like, the whole point of quantitative data is to get researchers to look at their aims for objectivity and without being biased. And it's used mainly on theories and ultimately subject to rejection, so it's a useful way of testing and validating theories that have already been constructed. So it's a different way of dealing with things compared to qualitative data. So literature search and review. So differences between literature search and literature review. So you've just found out what you need to do a literature review. So you need to identify what area you want to choose, why you want to do it, and construct a literature review. So you know the literature search, but you're not sure what difference is between a literature search and a literature review. This can be confusing if you're just starting out in academia. Although literature search and review are related terms, they refer to different processes and functions. In general, a literature search is the process of seeking out and identifying the existing literature related to a topic or question of your interest, while a literature review is the organized synthesis of the information found in the existing literature. So, in research applications, a literature search is typically the first step of a literature review. You need to look at that first. The search identifies relevant existing studies, any sort of articles, and the review is the end result of analyzing, synthesizing, and organizing the information found in the search. So, it summarizes the literature search and reviews concepts, and researchers typically practice them. So it's literally a way of doing that. Literature search and review. So literature search provides literature review provides a solid background for a researcher's paper's investigation, allowing the author to situate their own question within the large academic conversation on a given topic. A literature review with sufficient breadth and depth reflects the credibility of the author and the author's research. A good literature review should have a high degree of relevance and reliability, and that is the extent to which the sources are suitable and trustworthy for the review. Relevance, again, means that the sources are directly related to the topic and the research question and the objectives of the review. In a literature review, the results of a literature search can be used, as we mentioned. This is accomplished through reviewing, evaluating. A good literature review, as we mentioned, demonstrates the depth of your knowledge and understanding of the topic. It's not simply a summary of the description of your studies. In conducting an effective literature review, you need to be able to identify a wide range of articles using the literature search. So they overlap with each other, both the literature review and the literature search. In your literature review, you need to be able to evaluate those articles to determine which are relevant to your review. And when evaluating the research, include considerations such as the significance of the study, things like the methodology of the value of the analysis. You need to be looking at the structure and the overall effectiveness of the studies. You need to also, for literature review, look at analysing the articles you've chosen to include and why you're using them articles, critically and objectively review the study's methods, results and conclusions. Look at the strengths and weaknesses and what can you learn and how it relates to your work. You can also, for literature review, synthesize the information from all the included sources. Look for patterns in the articles. So what do they agree on? What do they disagree on? And what's missing? Also, your literature review, you need to make sure you organize it based on the chronology and methodology or themes. Again, this should not be merely a list of literature, but carefully structured whole one. Make sure you're able to write your literature reviews using the format of an introduction, body, and conclusion. And the literature review is there to reveal any sort of knowledge gaps that are being addressed in your study and in your review. So make sure you're doing that in regards to, identifying these things. And as we mentioned, a literature search is existing studies also, it makes you do your literature review. So it's where you research everything and to make sure you've got an effective literature review. And if you do a comprehensive literature search and review, it will provide you with the basis to build your study on, and what to include to do an effective literature review and search. It needs to be planned. And if you're conducting a good literature search, you need to be able to identify keywords when searching through any sort of library sources or any sort of internet sources. You need to be able to search multiple databases from different articles, books, and scholarly writings. You must also be able to use articles similar to your proposed study to find any sort of additional keywords or additional sort of resources. You need to also start with the most recent articles and work backward in time if necessary. You also need to, if you're conducting a good literature search, is to include reference papers in your searches. They also represent like up-to-date research, but also the latest research. You need to also cast a wide net by searching in databases that might be unrelated to your topic area. Also keep in mind that literature searches are iterative processes. And you need to make sure that you document all your articles that you are using relevant to your topic, because this will later on, if you're doing your literature review, it would it save you time to write your references for your literature review. So make sure you are looking at that when implementing any sort of doing your searches, but plus doing your review together. So make sure it gives you, once you're doing it, then you've got time to kind of reference everything in your literature review. So make sure you are doing it all properly. The whole point again is to look at your background to your paper, and then to review what's in the paper, but also reference things properly. So ways to reference. Referencing means acknowledging the sources you have used in your writing. So including references helps you support your claims and ensures that you avoid plagiarism. And the system that we use in the UK, but in most institutions, is the Harvard system referencing, and that is used in UK Varsity as well. So there are many referencing styles, but they usually consist of two things: a citation wherever you refer to a source in your text, which is the author and the year, and that's Harvard referencing, and make sure you are doing that so it doesn't come up as being plagiarized. A reference list or a bibliography at the end of listing full details of your sources. So if you've used internet sources, if you've used journal articles, if you've used books, make sure you are referencing them properly. There are websites out there that will help you reference things like Cite Me or Neil's Toolbox that will help you reference it if you don't know where to put the dots and the commas and you don't know how to reference it. Tells you where to put the author and it creates it for you. Okay, so you could use websites like that to help you reference things, and it references journal articles, URLs, internet sources, academic journals. It references things like books, everything, articles. So you need to make sure you are putting a full detail of all your sources. They need to be in chronological order as well, and make sure if you are using case law, you're fully citing them as well. So the most common method of referencing in UK universities, which I mentioned, is Harvard style, which uses author date citations in the text, and then the full citation goes in your reference list or your bibliography towards the end. So in conclusion, a research methodology gives you research legitimacy and provides scientifically sound findings. It also provides a detailed plan that helps researchers on track and making the processes more smooth and effective and manageable. A research methodology allows the reader to understand the approach and methods used to reach that conclusion. So at the end of it, you will reach that conclusion, but you need to make sure that you are doing that properly and you're able to, reach that actual analysis towards the end with a conclusion. Research methodology is an essential process to ensure that results obtained are valid and reliable, and that's really important in any sort of research methodology. You need to make sure that when you're using resources for your research, you need to make sure that they are valid and reliable, and they are, it's clearly mentioned that they are, they are the, resources that you can use, because they have to be valid and they have to be reliable for you to use them to identify if there's any sort of flaws within what you're doing. Research methodology is an essential process to ensure that results obtained are valid and reliable. And that's really important. As we mentioned, we keep going back to that. You can test the reliability and why they're so important. In your research, you need to be able to look at differentiating between both and why there's a need to have that in your research, where you're looking at validity, as we mentioned earlier, and reliability, and why it's so important to have that in your research. It sets the framework for the research and ensures that data collected is relevant and complete. Research methodology also determines the methods and tools to be used to analyze the data and to ensure that the conclusions are logical and consistent. Reliability and validity in your thesis, it's a way of, trying to identify that the work that you've submitted is reliable and, that it's valid. It tests the reliability and validity in several ways, by doing comparing the results and the studies that you're looking through, and also, looking at case by case research too. So the references, we finished learning outcome 4 now in regards to the legal research methods module unit, and these are some of the references that we've used for today's session, which are Deconstructing Legal Research by Barkan, Bearing Legal Research and Legal Concepts, Brickin, Guide to Qualitative Research Methodology, Prime and Social Research Methods, Sign-Off, Legal Research, Clinch, Studies Legal Research, Duncan and Hutchinson, Define and Describing What We Do, Legal Research, McConville, Introduction to Legal Methods for Law, and Shrep J, Legal Research Methods, Principles and Practicalities. Learners should ensure that their cited research shows they have accuracy, the timelessness of the information, relevance or the importance of the information for your needs, authority, so the source of the information, accuracy and reliability, validity, which we've gone through already, truthfulness and correctness of the content, and the purpose, so the reason the information actually exists, why there's a need for it. So, you as a learner should be ensuring that your research sources have currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. So, it's really important, because you are doing this research to identify certain flaws in the system or gaps in the system in the research that you're able to identify. Plenary, refer to ebooks and journals again on Moodle for this unit. Everything is on Moodle. All the recorded lectures are on Moodle. Any additional reading you can do. Make sure you are using case law, legislation, treaty, books, journals, any sort of publications. Reference your materials. It's really important you use the Harvard system for referencing, and I reiterate this so many times because it's so important, because you will be able to identify that your work has not been plagiarized, or if there's any collusion in that. Use ebooks, use the sources on Moodle, any sort of additional reading. If you have any questions, email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. Submission of the assignment is to be done on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. Make sure you're looking at the assignment, what the expectation is. Make sure, which we'll go through the assignment discussion later. Make sure you're using, following the structure. Make sure you're using the same words that are in the feedback sheet to identify each element of the assignment. Assignment submission is after 2 weeks of completion of the units and its delivery. So once the unit is completed, which is, we've got learning outcome 5 to do and assignment discussion, which is next week, then you will be able to submit your assignment on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. If you have any questions or queries, please email on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. And this is the end of learning outcome 4. And thank you for attending the session, and I will see you in the next session, which is learning outcome 5. Thank you.